Hi, my little duders, it's your friend, Knitted Anus here. Welcome to the Allen Dulles International Airport for super secret coups against sovereign, independent, democratically elected nations. Our next stop on our radicalization journey is Indonesia with a new friend named Sukarno. Real quick, brief history of Indonesia. It's been colonized for like hundreds of years, as you can see here. The Dutch East India Company was there since like the 1600s, and then there was like a brief stint where Japan was occupying their lands, and then World War II ended, and then the fucking Dutch came back. So after World War II, after the Japanese lost, after America totally didn't commit a war crime and dropped 2 atom bombs in Japan, Sukarno declared independence for his young little nation here, because Indonesia was a bunch of different islands and stuff, so the people didn't look exactly the same. They didn't really care about race and that stuff, but what united them was the idea of being free from colonialism and having a free, independent Indonesia. Sukarno started this like 15-year struggle of gaining independence and getting recognized from other countries for that. So Truman and Eisenhower, of course, were just doing the old Allen Dulles way, you know. Allen Dulles' little gang of weirdos were doing what they do. You know, secret operations, covert actions seeking to change the course of events around the world, that kind of stuff. Sukarno's administration started finding caches of weapons that had been airdropped to the rebels. Sten guns, machine guns, bazookas, and other weapons that bore a mark of manufacturer in Plymouth, Michigan. The CIA funded rebellions all over Indonesia. Most crucially, planes were circling over Ambon, the home island of Francisca's family, and dropping fiery death onto its residents. Day after day, bombs fell onto Indonesian military and commercial shipping vessels. CIA pilots took off from Singapore, an emerging Cold War ally, with the goal of destroying the government of Indonesia or breaking the country into little pieces. And then the Indonesians shot down the U-2 plane, a plane that shouldn't be shoot-downable, but Alan Pope was the guy who was flying it, and he became a very potent symbol of U.S. involvement in the rebellions, and apparent proof that the Indonesians, especially the left, had been right all along. The 1958 operation in Indonesia was one of the largest in CIA's history, and it was patterned on the successful coup in Guatemala. Remember how I said the homie Allen Dulles would do Guatemala every day if he could? Well, that's what we're doing. Now, before you can the guy you don't like, you've got to start training some people, you know, to take his place and get them down with the program. Washington took Howard Jones' advice and moved closer to the Indonesian armed forces to construct an anti-communist front. This new approach dovetailed with a growing consensus within the United States that the military should be given more power and influence in the third world, even if it meant undermining democracy. In 1959, the State Department completed a major study informed by this logic. The recent history of Latin America, the study claims, indicates that authoritarianism is required to lead backward societies through their socio-economic revolutions. The trend towards military authoritarianism will accelerate as developmental problems become more acute. The idea, as with similar programs around the third world, was to show the young intellectuals how things worked in the US, which would hopefully inspire them to take pro-American ideas back home. And then they did one of my favorite foiled CIA coup plots. Well, first they decided that they should just simply murder him, and then they were like, wait, no, I've got a better idea. Let me cook. Instead, the CIA hired pornographic actors, including a very rough Sukarno lookalike, and produced an adult film in a bizarre attempt to destroy his reputation. To play the president, the filmmakers, that is Bing Crosby and his brother Larry, hired a Hispanic-looking actor and put him in heavy makeup to make him look a little more Indonesian. The thing was never released, not because this was immoral or a bad idea, but because the team couldn't put together a convincing enough film. I'm telling you, everyone in the CIA is the most fail son of all fail sons in the history of fail sons. Why would the CIA cause all this mischief and chaos and waste all of this money just for what? To get rid of the guy from Indonesia? It's the strategy of divide et imperia, he said, using the Latin for divide and conquer. It is the Cold War. But guess what? That's still what they do. They're always like, oh, the reason you don't get paid well is because of migrants and black people and anything except for your boss, because your boss is the real enemy. So they split us up and divide us all up into little groups and make us fight amongst them ourselves. And they never have to deal with it because they don't ever interact in our worlds. They don't have to meet normal people, you know? Then the worst frickin' day of Allen Dulles' life happened and JFK was elected president. Kennedy's election seemed to herald serious changes for U.S. foreign policy, especially toward the third world. Sukarno, like many Indonesians, viewed young Jack as a rare American ally in the fight against colonialism because he had read JFK's denunciation of French colonial rule in Algeria. But in his inauguration speech, he also made a pledge to the third world. We pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves for whatever period is required, not because the communists may be doing it, not because we seek their votes, but because it is right. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. Remember, JFK was also very conflicted about what everyone was considering communism at the time. He went around to Congo and he went around the Middle East and stuff, and he saw that the people who were fighting for independence were leftists and they were actually nationalists. They just wanted freedom and independence for their country. For leaders like Sukarno, the idea of a nation was not based on race or language, and indeed could not be in territories as diverse as theirs, but is constructed by the anti-colonial struggle and the drive for social justice. The Third World could be united by its own common purposes, such as anti-racism and economic sovereignty. They could come together and organize collectively for better terms with the global economic system, forcing rich countries to lower their tariffs on the Third World goods. See how it's usually sold to us that communism is this scary, thing that's gonna kill everyone, but their real issues with it are the economic parts of it. It's weird. So JFK's presidency was a complete shift from Eisenhower and Truman's, because JFK was an anti-war president, because he actually fought in war directly, unlike all the other cowards that were presidents. He knows the true horrors and the costs of lives and stuff that goes into fighting these wars for rich people. And then on top of it, JFK starts having meetings with Sukarno, and he's like, this guy's kind of chill. Maybe we should just give him what he wants and, negotiate peace. This is also the time that JFK pushed back on allowing a full force invasion into Cuba. So you can see JFK starting the transition away from the CIA-controlled military-industrial complex worldwide. So JFK helps negotiate with Sukarno to get him West New Guinea, which he had been asking for years from the British or the Dutch, I can't remember. For Indonesia, at least, this was a shift from the days of Eisenhower and the Wisner method. Rather than attempting to destroy him, Kennedy gave Sukarno what he knew he needed. And then JFK, unrelatedly, died in a bathtub after swallowing too many pills. No, he was killed, but totally unrelated, promise. It is weird, though, that then America totally shifted how they were handling Sukarno. But a few months after JFK's death, Jones asked the newly sworn-in Johnson to sign an official determination that continued aid to Indonesia, and Johnson declined. President Johnson has come increasingly to the conclusion that at the end of the day that he would be ready for a major war against Indonesia. So Sukarno is rightly pissed off, and he said, go to hell with your aid. But then the military, the most anti-communist force in the country, now building an increasingly intimate partnership with Washington, and that forced the cancellation of the vote that was planned for 1950. So then Sukarno puts in his final nail in the coffin, and he announces that he's gonna nationalize the oil, and there's also gonna be martial law because the CIA is wreaking too much havoc on his country. Look at all of his scary friends from the non-aligned movement. Bruh. Oh look, it's just us boys. It was only a matter of time before the CIA got their way. Then the CIA gets the army that they've been funding to do a fake coup, say that they're communists, do a bunch of killing, blame it on the communists, and get the entire country to turn on all of them. Then the CIA made up this whole plan for this weirdo Suharto to take Sukarno out and replace him as the president of Indonesia. And he did. And he just let American oil companies and American interests do whatever they wanted up until now, bro. Isn't that sweet? And Suharto shut down all of the media so nothing could get out. Kind of sounds like Israel a little bit. And then soon after the initial confusion, the U.S. government assisted Suharto in the crucial early phase of spreading propaganda and establishing his anti-communist narrative in collusion with Western media. Oh my God. Though every part of the story the Indonesian army told is a lie. The brutality that followed for the next few years is kind of unfathomable. And if you really want to see the direct effects of what this was, watch this movie, The Act of Killing. And then watch this movie, The Look of Silence. It really explains to you what happens next. But by using fear and propaganda and paranoia, they essentially exterminated 1 million people from Indonesia who were very loosely related to communism. Not even really. Military commanders that were trained in Kansas started whipping everyone into frenzies. I will destroy them down to their roots. If in a village you find members of the PKI, but do not kill them, it will be you who we punish. Oh, well, I bet that the Americans just didn't know about this. The State Department received detailed reports of the extent and nature of the army operations as killings began in Java. Okay, well, it's not like the CIA directly assisted. But officials in the embassy and the CIA decided the army really did need, however, was information. Working with CIA analysts, embassy political officer Robert Martins prepared lists with the names of thousands of communists and suspected communists and handed them over to the army.
Machetes arrived at the same time that military anti-communist propaganda campaigns nationally coordinated arrived in Bali. Sukarno intentionally engineered hyperinflation by working with businessmen to restrict the supply of basic goods like rice, sugar, and cooking oil. The U.S. government was intentionally destabilizing the economy. It's one of their first priorities, as the killings are still going on. Without becoming directly involved, promote arrangements between the government of Indonesia and the American oil company. Suharto stopped the oil nationalization, and the United States immediately opened the economic floodgates. The stranglehold on the economy was loosened, and U.S. firms began exploring opportunities for profit. Oh cool, a U.S. mining company found a bunch of shit in West New Guinea.
Anyway, I just wanted to compare the different presidential administrations and take a look, but like, I don't know, man. Follow me, I love you.